Thanks for tuning in to the Urban Scope podcast. We have a sports topic today. Um, News regarding Saquon Barkley, the running back for the Philadelphia Eagles, and Eric Dickerson, the former running back, retired Hall of Fame running back from my LA Rams, which was formerly St. Louis Rams, but it's the LA Rams when Eric Dickerson played, and they just maybe 5 or 6 years ago switched back to LA Rams again from St. Louis. But nevertheless, they asked Eric Dickerson about the possibility of his rushing record, the 2105 yards rushing in one season, being broken possibly by Saquon Barkley over these next two games. Now, Saquon Barkley only needs 268 yards in the next two games, and he'll break that record, which seems very obtainable. It's going to be difficult with defensive stuff in the box, but they asked Eric Dickerson, how does he feel about Saquon Barkley breaking his record of 2105? And Eric Dickerson said that he doesn't want him to break the record. He said he also stated that he had 17 games to do it. So it was kind of a slight by saying, well, you have more games to do it. Of course you can break my record. But this is not something new Eric Dickerson has said before. Back in 2012, when Adrian Peterson almost broke his record, and I think he was short by like maybe 9 yards. They asked him about Adrian Peterson breaking his record, and he said he didn't want Adrian Peterson to break his record either. And I know he has a lot of respect for Adrian Peterson and his work ethic and his running style, and the same with Saquon as well. But I wasn't shocked by these comments. I know it made headlines on ESPN and other outlets about it, but I wasn't surprised because you got to think about it. Eric Dickerson's record was 1984. Saquon Barkley wasn't born in 1980. He was born after 1984. So his record stood the test of time. This is a 30 plus year old record that's still in existence. And the first thing I thought about when Eric Dickerson made these comments about Saquon breaking his record, I immediately thought about the LeBron James and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar situation. Ironically, and very ironically, in 1984, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar set the record for most career points in an NBA career that he won over Wilt Chamberlain. And ironically, that same year, Eric Dickerson set the mark 2105 yards, 2,105 yards rushing in a season. So these records happened in the same year and have both stand the test of time until recently when LeBron James just passed Kareem just a couple of years ago. Now the record is just out of this world. It was 38,000 points. LeBron is at 41,000 points now. So the record is just completely smashed. But Eric Dickerson has the last record, most notable record to stand the test of time. I mean, the total rushing yards ever is Emmitt Smith. He has 18,000, which he won from Walter Payton, I believe. Is probably never going to be broken again just because of the way the game is played now. Everybody's playing running back by committee. Everyone is, a lot of more injuries now for some reason, even though the footwear is better and the equipment is better and we have better rules to officiate the game. But for some reason, players get hurt more. So to see a player play that long is very rare. Frank Gore played for like a decade and a half, and he got to 16,000 yards. I don't see many other players playing 15 years, at least healthy. When you think about it, Christian McCaffrey is a smaller running back who could have possibly did it, but he's hurt like every year. Derrick Henry is in the 2,000 range. He's probably more than likely not going to get another 8,000 yards out of his career. At least not as a starting running back anyway. He probably has another couple of years as a starter, but he is a freak athlete. So I was hoping that he would get to that record, but unfortunately he only had maybe 8 games where he was injured, and he still almost got 1,000 yards that season. But it's just a tall task to ask of a player, especially a running back, with all the wear and tear that they have to go through. But nevertheless, LeBron and Kareem had a weird relationship to where even when LeBron broke the record and Kareem was at the game and he handed him the game ball, it was just very awkward. You could tell that Kareem didn't he didn't want to he didn't want to see his record leave, at least not while he was still living. Um, he was still holding on to that hope of having the record. But most people are asked, why do records are meant to be broken? So why are you emotional about it? But these athletes, their records and their accomplishments are everything. So if you had a you had a record at work, or you had some record had some sentimental value to you, especially over decades. These records lasted over 30 years. So if you had the same, uh, if you had that same relationship with your record, you would have the same uh, reaction that these guys had. Like, it's nothing new. It's human. It's natural instinct. It's human nature to be kind of upset or kind of be uneasy about someone breaking your record, or somebody coming behind you to do this. And it doesn't mean that the player is better than you. It's just mean like the situations are different. So when I did a little research on Eric Dickerson talking about Saquon Barkley, he had 17 games to break his record. We can go back in history and do that with every record that you can think of, because times have changed. These leagues have evolved. These leagues have got more attention, so they require more things. So, for example, the NFL plays 17 games right now a season. Each team plays 17 games. There are 18 weeks in a season. But back in the 50s and 60s, they only played 12 games in a season. Each team played 12 games. From the 60s and through the end to 77, from 61 to 1977, they played 14 games a season. From 1979 to 2020, it was 16 games. And like I said, it's 17 games now. So all of these records that are broken after these decades, an argument can be made. You have more games to do it. It's nothing new. Like I said, you still have to go out there and put the work in, and still to get the yardage and get to accumulate the stats. That shouldn't neglect the point. Now, if you had 30 games to break a record where he had it in 16, that's something different. One more game, it shouldn't make a difference whether or not the record is legit. 2,000 yards is difficult to do anyway. There hasn't been, I want to say there's only been 8 to 10 players that actually ever done it in a season. So, and nobody's done it back to back. So it's very difficult to get 2,000 yards in a season where there's 14 or 16 games or 17 games. You can make an argument that it was more impressive with the shorter games, but at the same time, you still have to go get 2,000 yards in a league that's a passing league. And most people are not addressing that. That's the crazy part about getting 2,000 yards nowadays. Everything is passing game. Now, nobody has even gotten 2,000 yards receiving. Recently, I think Cooper Kupp was the closest in the most recent, and he had 1,900 something. But as much as they passed the football around, you think 2,000 yards would be easier to get or been attained more than it has been, but it has not been. So you have to take that into consideration too. And a lot of people talked about LeBron breaking Kareem's record, and he said, well, they shoot more threes over the last decade or so, so he had a lot of time, or he didn't have to attempt many shots or take the pounding that Kareem took, to get to that record. 3-point was out later in Kareem's career, but he was a center. He only made one 3-pointer in his whole career. And I'm not sure how many he attempted, but he only made one in his whole career. So all of those 30,000 points that he had, it was off of one 3-pointer and a bunch of probably free throws and things like that. But mostly it was sky hooks and easy dunks and layups and things like that. But there's rules, like I said, with the quarterback game. The quarterbacks are protected more so they can play longer, so they can accumulate more stats. And a lot of people make that argument when you come to Tom Brady, even though he played the beginning, maybe the first 5 years of his career in the tough era when they didn't have all these rules to protect the quarterback. Ironically, they made these rules because of Tom Brady, because when he played the Chiefs on one night and somebody aimed at his legs, and they took that rule out to where you can't aim at the quarterback's legs. So it was kind of ironic that the rule was broken because of Tom Brady, or established because of Tom Brady. So, but receivers, they make those same rules as well. Pass interference, you can't really touch a receiver anymore. Cornerback could get a penalty for it. So, it's just the name of the game. Like I said, it comes with the territory. Everybody knows that when you sign up, it's a part of the game, and it's not going anywhere. So, but I don't think Eric Dickerson was wrong for his statements. I just think that it's a natural instinct, it's human nature. And I don't think Saquon should feel any kind of way about it. And maybe he doesn't. It's like he said, he probably don't want nobody to break the record after Saquon breaks it. Because by the time Saquon retires or when he retires, eventually they'll be playing probably 20 games and somebody will break it pretty easy. So tell me, what are your thoughts about Eric Dickerson's comments as it relates to Saquon Barkley? And then until next time, I'll see you next time.